Are Australia and China friends again? Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's high-profile visit to China has come to an end.
After a diplomatic phrase and years of trade tensions, Beijing is doing all it can to flatter the Australian Prime Minister.
Forget about the diplomatic platitudes and cliché compliments from both sides. If you've missed the events of the past 4 days, don't worry, I've got you covered. Here are the 5 key takeaways.
So what was the most important part of this visit? The meeting between Albanese and Chinese President Xi Jinping was important, but it was the panda that attracted the most attention.
I'm pro-panda. Pandas do get homesick.
Adelaide Zoo's lease on 2 adorable pandas, Wang Wang and Funi, expires next year. The PM says he requested Mr. Xi to extend their contract.
I would, on behalf of Australia's kids and families, I would like to see pandas maintain a presence in Australia.
But they had an argument.
He spoke about the Tasmanian devils as being cute animals in Australia. I pointed out that whilst I like Tasmanian devils, they're probably not as cute as pandas. He reminded us of the fact that not all pandas are cute by relaying the Kung Fu Panda story as well.
Despite the panda's charm, the real dialogue between the leaders was conducted in a relaxed and positive manner. The PM came out of the meeting smiling.
That was a very positive meeting following on from our engagement at the G20 in Bali last year.
Well, the meeting was symbolic. The fervent conversation set the tone for future relations between the two countries.
The PM said he had invited Xi to Australia, and the Chinese president had invited him to visit China again, including an offer to a presidential tour of the country.
What? They haven't finished this trip, but there's already talks about the next one?
Well, busy times ahead for journalists, but when is it happening?
The way that these visits occur isn't that someone goes, yep, I'll be on the plane next week.
The conversation between the two leaders cemented Australia's role in Chinese society and set the stage for ongoing discussions. However, there are still a number of obstacles to overcome. Mr. Albanese visited the economic hub of Shanghai with more than 250 Australian businesses at the China International Import Expo. He enjoyed the Australian wine, lobsters, and beef. The Prime Minister was clearly testing the limits by advocating for these high-quality Australian products.
All banned in China. So what was the outcome?
I think there are promising signs we've already seen. A number of the impediments to trade between our two nations are removed, and an uplift already, substantial uplift.
We also heard interesting figures about our trade relationship with China.
Between January and August, Australia exported $6 billion of products that had been the subject of the impediments to our trade between exports to China, $6 billion. If we look at those products last year in the same period, it was $85 million. China is our most important trading partner. It represents more than 25% of our exports, and 1 in 4 of our jobs relies upon our trade.
Does this mean pandas can stay and lobsters can go?
Human rights issues remain a concern as well, especially since Australian author Yang Hengjun remains detained in China. The Prime Minister addressed the matter directly with Mr. Xi, yet his response after the meeting was ambiguous.
What response did you get?
Well, I raised it in the meeting. So,
Dr. Yang was arrested on suspicion of committing espionage crimes, a charge he always denied. His family said his health has rapidly declined in recent weeks. They pledged with the PM to do all in his power to secure Dr. Yang's release.
All eyes are now on Dr. Yang after Australian journalist Chen Lei was recently released from a Chinese prison.
Mr. Albanese's trip to China marked a long-waiting thaw in ties between Canberra and Beijing. Chinese media gave Mr. Albanese's visit almost one-sided positive coverage. Most of the reports cited President Xi's new direction on Australia.
现在我们又开启了
Now we will embrace a new 50 years in China-Australia relations. Your visit this time is highly significant that it inherits the past and ushers in the future.
The Temple of Heaven, a landmark imperial building, was one of the Prime Minister's stops in China. Former Prime Minister Gough Whitlam visited it on the first ever official trip to China by an Australian Prime Minister. Mr. Albanese retraced his path, marking the 50th anniversary of relations between the two nations.
Retrace the steps that Mr. Whitlam took.
Whether symbolic or substantial, Mr. Albanese's trip appears to have opened a new chapter in relations.
Just further constructive dialogue and further advancement of the friendship between our two great nations.